Anyway, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming, for staying. Okay, I think last time we spoke about the Shloshinu Eshloshonam, Shloshinu Eshomam. Did we do that? They didn't change their name, they didn't change their language, they didn't change their clothing.
Oh, right.
Is that what we spoke about last time?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so we'll move on. Let me just see what the list of topics is. Okay. There's a very interesting thing. Yaakov and Yosef were separated for over 20 years. And then all of a sudden, Yosef reveals himself to his brothers, and he asks them to go back to their father Yaakov in the land of Canaan, and to bring Yaakov down to Mitzrayim. Now Yaakov's on the way to meet his son Yosef. Yosef is on the way, going out to greet his father. And the Torah says that when they met, he cried on his shoulder, in the singular. So the Gemara says, well, who cried? It's a difference of opinion, but basically, Yosef cried and Yaakov did not cry. Why didn't Yaakov cry? So Chazal say, because he was in the middle of saying Kriya Shema. You heard that? He's saying the Shema. And since he was saying the Shema, he did not want to interrupt. And therefore, only Yosef was emotional or cried at that moment. Yaakov was engaged in saying Kriya Shema. The Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. This is very problematic.
The law wasn't given for.
Well, it's not that.
You are allowed to interrupt, say.
This is very problematic because the Mishnah tells us in Brachos, it's a difference of opinion between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, but everybody would agree that if there's an important person, and certainly Yosef was an important person, being the viceroy of Egypt, that you're allowed to certainly interrupt bein haprakim. You could interrupt in between, and for an Adam Chashav, you can even interrupt in the middle of a paragraph. It means even in the middle of a paragraph of Kriya Shema, if there's an honored person who comes and greets you, you can interrupt and greet that person. What's the logic behind this? Is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, does not take umbrage if you're honoring his creation, one of his creations, one of his creatures. And since this person is a respected person, so the Gemara says, who's ever respected in this world is respected above in the world of heaven.
This is what Avrum did with the angels.
That's right. Avrum interrupted too. So the point is that Yaakov should have interrupted the Shema. And he should have greeted his son, because his son was the viceroy, an important person. And the din is he can interrupt. So why didn't he interrupt? But even more, strange is Yosef did not parachute down from heaven. He came with a whole entourage, with a cloud of dust in his wake, as they rode towards Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu could see off into the distance. And then, his children would tell him, oh, we spotted Yosef's on his way here. Why wouldn't he have just delayed the onset of saying Kriya Shema? Why did he have to just at that moment decide to say Kriya Shema? Pretty strange. What's the pshat?
Was it so Zman Kriya Shema?
Okay. Well, he would have done it by the beginning of Zman Kriya Shema, not then. But even so Zman Kriya Shema, that might just be a D'Rabbanan. It's not even a Doraisa, according to the Kesef Mishnah. But anyway, what is the pshat? You know what? I'll just tell you this cute little thing. It's not the halacha. We don't paskin like the Kesef Mishnah. The Kesef Mishnah was Rabbi Yosef Karo, who wrote the Shulchan Aruch, who wrote a Perush on the Rambam. And in his Perush on the Rambam, he says, the Torah says, when you lie down and when you rise up in the morning, we say Kriya Shema at night and we say Kriya Shema in the morning. So the Beis Yosef, the Kesef Mishnah, that is, says, by night you can say it the whole night until the break of dawn. So by day you should be able to say Kriya Shema the whole day, not until the kings get up or whatever it is, 9 o'clock or whatever the time is right now. You should be able to do it all day, just like you can do Kriya Shema Balayla all night. Says the Kesef Mishnah. That's right. You can do Kriya Shema a whole day. It's only rabbinic that they set time frames for the Kriya Shema. So just so you should know that. So therefore, the question really is, why does Yaakov decide at that moment to say Kriya Shema? Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I think might be the answer. What happened to the family? The family imploded, and the brothers, sold Yosef into slavery, destroying the harmony of the family, destroying the fabric of the family, causing Yaakov great aggravation for all those years of separation. Now they're coming together. So can you just imagine the scene? Yaakov's coming with his sons, and Yosef is emerging from Egypt with his sons. The family is going to reunite. Okay, this is going to be an auspicious moment. But this moment has a lot of anxiety. The brothers are saying, oh my goodness, is Yosef going to tell our father Yaakov what happened? That we jumped him? That we stripped him of his multicolored garment, that we threw him into a pit, that we sold him into slavery? Is Yosef going to tell Daddy what happened here? Yosef is thinking, did my father set me up? When he sent me to go see Shalom Achecha, the peace of my brethren, he knew that they hated me. He knew there was great tension between us. He knew that they were jealous of me. Why did he send me out alone to go to my brothers? Was this part of some setup that was this his way of getting me out of the family or whatever? Why did he do this? Why did he expose me to such risk? That's what Yosef is thinking. Yaakov is thinking, why didn't Yosef contact me all these years? What's going on here? Well, all these years we were separated. He's up there sitting on the throne, or the second to the throne. Why doesn't he try to reach out and tell me he's still alive? So you can just imagine everybody has these thoughts, and now they're about to meet. A lot of tension in the air. This is a moment fraught with tension. Everybody's thinking his own thoughts, and in a sense dreading the meeting, because who knows what's going to happen at this meeting. So what does Yaakov decide to do? Yaakov decides to say Kriya Shema. And basically what he was telling his children was, we lost track of the mission. We are the children of Avram, Yitzchak, and you're my children. We are the patriarchs. You are the nucleus of a new nation, of the Bnei Yisrael, of the children of Israel. What is our mission in this world? To spread the belief in one God. That's our mission to the world. And that's the mission that we have pretty much succeeded in accomplishing, ultimately over time. Okay? The Christians believe in one God. The Muslims believe in one God. This is all a contribution of the Jewish people. So therefore, this was our mission. He said to his sons, all of them, how could you let your petty jealousies, your petty anger interrupt our mission, confuse our mission, separate the family, destroy our unity and harmony? How could you let that happen? So he said, at this moment where we're going to meet, I'm going to reinforce our mission. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. This is our mission, children. Don't let this happen again. Don't let your jealousies destroy and lose sight of what our tafkid is, what our purpose is in this world. And that's why at that very moment he chose to say Shema. Not because there was any halachic imperative that he say Shema at that moment. No, we already said. Number one, there's no halachic imperative. Number two, he could have interrupted his Shema. But he chose not to interrupt his Shema. He chose to state his Shema because he wanted to reinforce and reaffirm what the mission of Israel is to this world, and that his children had somehow lost sight of that. Yes.
Wouldn't it have been better for him to make teshuvah that he sent his son Yosef, knowing
Who knows what he did? He said, let's put aside all of our little problems, all that would separate us, all that would cause suspicion one to the other. Me to Yosef, why didn't he contact me? Yosef to me, why did I send him? To the brothers who were jealous, and why did they do what they did? All that is petty. All that does not make any difference. All that has no effect, or should not have had any effect, on our mission, on our purpose in this world, to spread the unity of Hashem, the unity of God. That's our message to humanity, and we lost sight of it. All of us lost sight of that when we did what we did. And we need to drop all of that and focus on what our tafkid is. And that's perhaps what's going on here. Okay, that's just a little shot. Maybe it's true. Who knows? We never know. If it sounds good, like it. If it doesn't, find another one. Okay, anyway.
Did any other before him say?
No, look at this. Nobody even talks about it. These are intriguing questions that no one asks. Anyway.
That's the title of a book.
Yeah, sounds like a good title. All right, anyway, let's move on. So the Torah tells us that Yaakov goes down to Egypt with 70 souls. B'shivin nefesh yordu avoseinu l'Mitzrayim, with 70 souls that are our ancestor Yaakov Avinu, gathering his entire clan, his family, did they descend into Egypt. So in Parshas Vayigash, which is the next to last parsha of the book of Genesis, of Bereshis, the Torah enumerates 66 names. 66 names of Yaakov and his children and grandchildren, and those who he took to Egypt. Now that's 66. Yosef and his 2 sons, 3 is 69. And then the Chazal say, Yocheved, the daughter of Levi, was born Bein HaChomos. As they entered into Egypt, she was born. So she's counted in the 70 souls that went into Egypt, but she's not named because she was just born. So amongst the count, she counts, but her name is not reckoned in the accounting of all the children, because she was just born. She was not yet born when they commenced the trip, but she was born at the end when they entered into Egypt. Now, among those 70 souls, we have Serach bas Osher. I'm sorry, we start with first. We have Dinah bas Yaakov, Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov. We have Serach bas Osher. Serach is a woman who's the daughter of Osher. And we have Yocheved, who was born between the wombs. Out of 70 souls, 3 women are counted. Now, are you going to tell me that in all of those 70 people, there were only 3 women? Only 3 women are counted. 2 are mentioned, 3 are counted. No other women are mentioned. How can that possibly be that amongst a family of a clan of 70 people, the Torah only considers 3 women? It's impossible that there were only 3 women. After all, they gave birth, so they had to have other women. But what happened to all these women? So Rashi has a very strange shot, which he says, I'm forced to say, because the Torah only lists these 3 or counts these 3. He says the tribes, the 12 sons, or at least 11 of them, Yosef was in Mitzrayim, each had a twin who was born, and amongst those twins, they took wives. Okay? So Rashi says if they were born, they were daughters of Yaakov. If they were daughters of Yaakov, why aren't they counted? After all, Dinah is counted. She's a daughter of Yaakov. Why aren't those all mentioned? They're not even mentioned. Their names aren't expressed, nor are they counted. So Rashi says it must be that they died. So all of the wives of all of the tribes must have died. I'm forced to say they died. This is, again, incredulous, hard to believe, but of course Rashi says it. So other than raising the question, we will just go on. But I wanted to say a different pshat. I wanted to say a different meaning. In the Torah scheme of things, a woman joins with her husband. Person, Yazovish is Dovak Bisho, a woman clings to her husband. What does that mean, she clings to her husband? She's subsumed in the family of her husband. What happens? She brings in certain properties, whatever, that her father may give to her. If she dies, those properties go to her husband. If the husband is dead, the properties will go to her son.
Shtoke gufo.
Right? Yeah, it'll go to her son. Now, she does not inherit. If her husband dies, even if she has no children, her husband dies, she does not inherit. The tribesmen of her husband inherit. So a wife gets subsumed into the essence of her husband. She becomes what we call the akeres habayis, the anchor of the home. She raises the children. She injects in her personality, her wisdom, and her training into her children. She is the anchor of the family. Al titosh Torah simecha, do not abandon the Torah that your mother teaches you. And of course, everyone knows that children cling to their mother, and mother raises them a lot more than the father, especially if the father goes to work, or even if he goes to kollel, he's not home. So mostly the mother raises the children, certainly until the age of 6, 7, the mother is really the one that invests the children. The mother is the anchor of the house. It's not to discount her, but it's to tell you that she blends into the family of her husband. She's like a member of her husband's family. She goes and lives with the husband in his home. He must create a home. He must establish a home for his wife. She merges into the family. If she accepts that role in her life, she loses her individuality. She becomes the anchor of the home, but as part of the husband's home. Okay? She moves to the tribe of her husband. So she goes from her father's house to where her husband is amongst his tribesmen. Now, that's the norm. But the Torah does not mandate a role for a woman. For instance, a woman, although she is the one that bears the child, there's no mitzvah of Periya Berivya on a woman. A woman has no obligation to be a mother, to bear children. She is the one who bears children, but the Torah does not mandate a mitzvah that she must bear children. The Torah understands that she is going to invest the children with knowledge of Torah. She's going to teach them Moda'ani. She's going to teach them Torah Tzivu Lanu Moshe. She's going to teach them various things, but she has no mitzvah to learn Torah. So she has no mitzvah to learn Torah. She has no mitzvah to procreate. But she merges into the family of her husband. So you see that the Torah does not mandate a role for a woman. The woman is free to choose whatever she wants to do. If she wants to learn Torah, she's permitted to learn Torah. If she wants not to get married, she does not have to get married. There's no mitzvah for her to get married. There's no mitzvah for her to raise a family. None of this is mandated by the Torah. The Torah gives the woman absolute freedom to choose the way she wants to live. So now get back to the 70 souls. There were 3 women who stood out and abandoned the traditional role of a woman. First, there was Dinah. Dinah, the daughter of Yaakov. What does it say? Vatetse Dinah. Dinah left the family cocoon, let's call it, and went out to see the world. Of course, I'm not going to comment on what she did. She ended up being captured by Shechem and raped by Shechem. But the point is that she did not want to adopt or follow the traditional role of Kavuda Bas Melech Penima, to stay within the family cocoon, as I said before. She went out into what we would call, went out into the world. So therefore she was unique in her time because she didn't adopt the traditional role. Serach Bas Osher. The Gemara says that Serach Bas Osher lived 800 years more. She lived from the time of Asher, the son of Yaakov, all the way into the Sefer Shoftim, all the way into Sefer Shmuel, that she was the woman when Sheva, excuse me, in Sefer Shmuel it tells a story of a rebel, a man who revolted against David HaMelech. His name was Sheva ben Bichri. And Yoav, the commander-in-chief of David's army, began to pursue Sheva ben Bichri to bring him to justice for treason. And Sheva ben Bichri ran to a city and hid behind the walls of a city. Yoav brings the army of Israel chasing Sheva ben Bichri and surrounds the city. And he says to them, produce this man or I'm going to destroy the whole city. And there was an old woman in that city who somehow arranged and did cut off the head of Sheva ben Bichri and threw it over the ramparts to say to Yoav, you don't have to attack the city. She saved the city. Now the Gemara, the Gemara deals with this issue. There's a din in the Torah that if a Gentile army surrounds a city of Jews and says, Tenu lanu echad mekem, surrender one Jew, Mr. Goldberg, surrender Mr. Goldberg, or we're going to kill the entire city. And of course, they have the ability, they have an army and they have the city surrounded. They have the ability to surrender to surround and kill the whole city. The Gemara says, Yimsuru kulam, let them all be, give up their lives. In other words, let the enemy kill the whole city. V'ali yimsuru nefesh akas mi Yisrael, and do not surrender one soul from Israel. It's a chilul Hashem for Jews to try and save themselves by succumbing and submitting to the demand of a Gentile army to surrender one Jew. We all have an obligation to die on B'Kiddush Hashem Mesiras Nefesh. This is the din of the Gemara. So the Gemara says, what about Sheva ben Bichri? How did they throw his head over the wall? They should have all let themselves be killed. And the Gemara answers that when the person is guilty of a capital offense, if the person is guilty of a capital offense, the one that the Goyim demand to be surrendered is a person who is guilty of a capital offense, then you can surrender him. It's only if the man is not guilty in Jewish law of a capital offense, then you're not allowed to surrender him. Sheva ben Bichri was a traitor to David. He was a morid b'malchus. He was therefore guilty of a capital offense, and therefore you were allowed to surrender him. Yes?
Isn't there a difference if they make a name or if they don't?
They mention a name? Yeah, well, okay.
If they mention a name,
maybe. Could be. But here they mentioned the name, and if they mention a name, you are not allowed to surrender him. Now, there's a very famous tragic story in Jewish history in the 1500s. Now, I'm just going to mention this story, Agav Orcha. You know what Agav Orcha means? By the way. Okay? There was a situation... Agav Orcha. There was a situation in the city of Krakow in the 1500s when the Bach was the rabbi in Krakow. There was an adjoining community in which a golden cross was stolen from a church. And the elders of the church and the rabble crowd that they instigated said that a certain Jew was the one who stole it. Maybe he was the painter there or something. But anyway, they accused a certain Jew of being guilty of stealing the golden cross. This Jew maintained his innocence and he hid out and would not let himself be captured until one day they stumbled on him and found him in the marketplace trying to blend in, and they captured him. They surrounded him. And as they surrounded him, they demanded the golden cross from him. And he kept screaming, I'm innocent, I didn't take it. And as they took him away, he took his money belt, which was on his hip, and he threw it to a friend in the crowd. And they took him away. They didn't pay any attention at that point. They tortured this man to death, and he would not reveal where the golden cross was because, of course, he maintained he was innocent. So then the Christians decided they must have had it in that little pocketbook or whatever you want to call it, his money pouch, and he threw it to this other Jew in the crowd. This other Jew in the crowd has the golden cross, but they didn't know who he was. So they went to the elders of the city, the Jewish elders of the city, the Jewish community, and they said, produce this Jew. You go and find out who it was, or we're going to kill all the elders of the city. We give you 1 week to find this Jew, produce him for us, or we're going to kill the elders of the city. They didn't know what to do. So they sent to Krakow to the Bach. And they asked the Bach this question: what should we do? And the Bach said, surrender the Jew. And he said, why am I saying surrender the Jew? We have a Mishnah, we have a law in the Talmud that if the Gentiles surround the city and they say, produce this Jew, you're not allowed to do it. You all have to get killed. So these 7 elders should have been willing to die. Why would they produce the Jew? Why would I say the halacha is to produce the Jew? Says the Bach, this Jew that accepted the money pouch, should have known that he was exposing himself to the wrath of the Gentiles. He was risking his life by accepting that money pouch. It's as if he was guilty of a capital offense, meaning he endangered himself. And since he endangered himself, the law of the Mishnah of not producing a Jew does not apply. And the Bach said, this answer that I gave to this question has tortured me all my days, and I can't put it in print. I can only allude to it indirectly in very cryptic ways. And that's what he did. He alluded to it in cryptic ways. He did not express the whole question and put his psak out there because he was afraid it would be somehow misperceived and misconceived, and therefore he didn't want to. Maybe he didn't even feel strongly enough in his position. But anyway, that's what happened in Jewish history.
Could he have been considered a Rodef, this Jew?
Yeah, well, he could be considered a Rodef if they knew, that he had any idea that that's what they were going to do. Okay, maybe. All right. Anyway, how do we get into this? Oh, so what is the role of a Jewish woman? The role of a Jewish woman is to do whatever she wants to do within the confines or the gedarim or the boundaries of halacha. She wants to study Torah, she can study Torah. She wants to not get married, she does not have to get married. There are no halachas that compel her to do anything. She can choose her own lifestyle. She can choose to be a weaver the rest of her life and invest in her artwork. She can be a painter. She can do whatever she wants to do. The Torah gave her no boundaries, no mandates, no mitzvahs, except the mitzvahs that are incumbent on a woman, amongst which is not the mitzvah to study Torah, is not the mitzvah to have children. So therefore, these women who chose to step out and do something outside of the norm, the Torah says these women are remarkable, and therefore these women are going to be counted. They're not going to be subsumed into the families of their husbands. They're not going to be lost basically in the family structure. They are unique and they stood out, and therefore, since the Torah allowed them to do what they did, they are not going to be condemned. They're going to be counted amongst the 70 souls that went down to Egypt.
So she never married? Sarah, I'm asking.
I don't know. I don't know if she married or not. Maybe she did. It doesn't say. At least I did not see it written anywhere what she did with her life, other than she saved the city from the army of Yoav. She was also, obviously a great tzaddikus. The Chachamim, the Gemara tries to find reasons for her longevity, and they find her to be extremely pious and exemplary, and she stood out even amongst men. Yeah. And we're talking about she stood out amongst the Shoftim, Pinchas, Eliyahu, all of these people. She stood out with that long life that she had. Okay, so that's the essence of the 70 women, of the 70 souls.
When did the Bach live?
15 something.
Is this
Circus is less.
Is this connected with this?
I don't know who's that.
In Prague.
In Prague?
Yeah.
No, the Bach lived in Krakow.
Okay, it's not that far.
Okay, no, it's a different country.
You know the story of this?
No, I don't know. This is what, this is the...
It's up to now, it's still there.
Oh.
Kadosh, Kadosh Lashem. And the Jewish community in Prague had to build this. It's in gold.
Uh-huh. Yoshka, that's Yoshka.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know the story. That's very interesting. You should look into that. Okay.
It's in the Jewish court now.
All right. I should really look into that. It's an amazing thing, but I'm surprised. I don't know. All right. Anyway, let's go on. So that's the second issue, the 70 souls, no women. We talked about the meeting, talked about the 70 souls. Now let's go on to Chumash Shemos. Last week we talked about Yosef's final dream. We talked about his invoking the oath that the Jewish people will be redeemed, and that he ingested that into the nationality, the national psyche of the Jewish people. We're now up to Chumash Shemos. Let's ask this question. Chumash Shemos, second book of the Bible, what's it called by the Gentiles?
Exodus.
Exodus. That's a name with oomph. Exodus, talking about the redemption of the Jewish people. They came out of the slavery in Egypt, great miracles. Moshe Rabbeinu led them, the 10 plagues. What?
Yeah, it's even a movie.
It's even a movie. It's even a book. It's a book. That's a name. What is the name that we give to the second book? Shemos. What does Shemos mean? Names. Names. What kind of name is names? Okay. This brings us back to the days of Noah. Well, let's talk about it on the days of Avrum Avinu. By the way, in case you keep track of the number of years that Noah lived all the way past Avrum Avinu. Avrum Avinu died before Noah, or certainly before Shem. Anyway, after the defeat of the 4 kings, and when Avram Avinu rescues his nephew Lot and saves the city of Sodom, it says, "Umalki tzedek melech sholem hotzi lechem b'yayin behu kohen lekel elyon," and Malki Tzedek, the king of Salem, as they say in English, who was a priest to the Almighty God, he came and he brought bread and wine and he blessed Avram Avinu. The Chazal say, and Rashi brings it, who is this Malki Tzedek? Where did he come from? Okay, says the Chazal, Malki Tzedek was Shem ben Noach. Shem, the son of Noach. Avram Avinu meets Shem, the son of Noach, 10 generations earlier. He meets him at after he returns from the battle with the 4 kings and rescuing Lot and saving Sodom. Why is he called Malki Tzedek? Why doesn't the Torah identify him as Shem? Shem ben Noach hotzi lechem b'yayin. He blessed Avram Avinu. Why does it say Malki Tzedek? So, what kind of name does Noach give to his son? He calls his son Shem. Imagine if somebody goes over to Shem and he speaks Lashon Kodesh and he says, Ma Shem Shalcha? What's your name? And he says to him, Shem. He says, no. What's your name? And he keeps saying Shem.
Sounds like an Abbott Costello.
It sounds like one of those. So let me tell you a funny story. One of the Rosh Yeshiva in Lakewood Yeshiva today, his name is Yisrael Newman. He married Rab Shneir Kotler's daughter. Rab Shneir Kotler was Rav Aaron Kotler's son. Rav Aaron Kotler is the founder of the Lakewood Yeshiva, which, together with the Mir, is the greatest yeshiva in the world, certainly and numerically. And his daughter married Yisrael Newman. Now, Yisrael Newman grew up in Baltimore, and I knew him as a young man. He went to TA. I went to Ner Yisrael, but he would come after he finished his studies in TA, and he would sit in the Beis Midrash in Ner Yisrael and learn Torah till 10 o'clock at night when they daven Ma'ariv. And so he would, he was very pious and very frum. It would take him 20 minutes past to the yeshiva, he would still be davening. I mean, and the yeshiva did not daven fast. And he would really say every word with kavanah. He was a very fine person. Well, when he graduated TA, he decided to go to Lakewood, to study in Lakewood. Talmudical Academy of Baltimore. There's TA in New York, there's TA in Baltimore, it's okay, fine. He went to Yeshiva's Chofetz Chaim in Baltimore. When he graduated, he went to Beis Medrash Gavoa to Lakewood. He had to have an interview. So he went in to meet Rav Aaron Kotler, and Rav Aaron Kotler had to approve of his entry into the yeshiva. He was the dean of the yeshiva, the Rosh Yeshiva. So Rav Aaron Kotler spoke to him in Yiddish. And he says to him, "What is Ira Newman? What is your name?" And he said, "Ira Newman." His name was Ira Newman. So he responded, "Ira Newman." Rav Aaron Kotler said, "Name, what is Ira Newman? What is your name?" And he kept saying, "Ira Newman." He said, "Ira Newman." So Rav Aaron Kotler had a picture of the Chofetz Chaim in his office. He goes, "Chofetz Chaim, Aaron Kotler." And he points to him and he says, "Ira Newman." Oh, so Rav Aaron understood. He was telling him his name was Ira, I-R-A, Newman, Ira Newman. And of course, now he's known as Yisrael Newman, and he's a big tzaddik. But anyway, that's the story that is told. It's a funny story, but the same thing with Shem ben Noach. People would say to him, "What's your name? Ma shimcha, ma korim lecha?" He would say, "Shem, Shem." That's not. What's your name? So what is Noach telling his son? You know what your name is? Your name is what you make of yourself. What do you do with your life? What contribution do you make? What significance do you have in this world? And what happened is Shem became Melchizedek, the king of justice, the king of righteousness. That's Shem ben Noach became Melchizedek. He became known as the king of justice and righteousness. He made something of himself, and therefore the Torah says, Melchizedek, Melech Shalem, Hotzi Lechem B'Yayin, and he blessed Avrum Avinu.
Also, Moshe's name was not Moshe.
We're going to get to that. We are going to get to that. So he's trying to anticipate. Okay, if I'm not here 1 week, you can ask him. Okay, good. So anyway, got us back to our question. What kind of name to the second book of the Torah is names? You want to hear something even more remarkable? So the first paragraph in Chumash Shemos talks about Paro and what he's going to do to us, etc., and how he enslaves us. The second paragraph in the Chumash Shemos starts off with Pasuk Aleph, chapter 2, verse 1. Vayelech ish mi beis Levi, a man from the house of Levite, and he took Vayikach es bas Levi. He married the daughter of Levi. The man's not mentioned his name. The daughter that he marries is not mentioned her name. Vatar ha'isha, and the woman gets pregnant. Vateled ben, and she bears a son. And she sees that he's good. So she hides him for 3 months because she gave birth at the end of 6 months. She had 3 months to hide him before the agents of Paro came to seize him and drown him. V'lo NACHLAOT haspino, she saw she could no longer hide him because they kept track of her pregnancy and they knew that after 9 months she would bear a child. They came to look for the child, or she knew they were going to come. So she took him and put him in this little basket. She smeared it with tar to make it waterproof, and she put him in the bulrushes. And his sister positions herself in the distance, to see what's going to happen to her little infant baby brother who's in this little, teva, this little box. She's not mentioned. The child's name is not mentioned. Bas Paro sees him and comes and takes him. She's not mentioned. She brings this little infant into her home, and she calls him Moshe. Now, obviously, he was already 3 months old. His parents named him. They didn't just say, baby. They called him a name. So why is the Torah not mention his name? So Moshe's name's not mentioned, his given name. His father's name's not mentioned. His mother's name's not mentioned. His sister's name's not mentioned. Paro's daughter's name is not mentioned. This is the book of names. Mm-hmm. And there are no names. Mm-hmm. Of course, later on, the Torah is going to tell us who each of these people are. So if the Torah is going to eventually tell us who these people are, why doesn't it tell us this? And when it introduces us to these significant people, it's going to be Amram, Yocheved, Miriam, Moshe. Nobody's name is mentioned.
Basia.
Bitya Bas Paro, Basia Bas Paro. None of the names are mentioned. What is the pshat? In the book of names, the names aren't mentioned. Okay. So let's get back to the overriding question. How can this book have such a bloch name as names? The Goyim give it a name that, you can sit up and take note of. Mm-hmm. But to call the book names? So I think the answer is as follows. The first book of the Torah, Bereshit, Genesis, is the book of patriarchal figures. We have Adam Harishon, we have his son Sheth, we have Noach, we have Shem ben Noach, we have Terach, we have Avrum Avinu, we have Yishmael, we have Yitzchak, we have Esav, and we have Yaakov. These are names of patriarchal figures. Of course, for the Jewish people, we have Yosef. Of course, for patriarchal figures, there is a sentence in the Torah, Eila told us. These are the generations. That Sefer told us, Adam, the generations of Adam Harishon, Sheth, every one of those patriarchal figures that I mentioned, whether it be Jews or non-Jews, even Esav and Yishmael, there is a sentence that says, these are the generations of. And every one of them has their own sentence that says that, with one exception. One of the patriarchal figures does not have a sentence, Elah. Who is that? That is Avrum Avinu. Most astoundingly, Avrum Avinu, the father of our people, what we would say the first Jew. No pasuk, no sentence. These are the generations of Avrum Avinu. Isn't that a wonder? So I'll tell you another story. Once upon a time, when I lived in Baltimore, a young man, considerably younger than me, comes into the shul on Shabbos. He's wearing khaki pants. He's wearing a blue blazer. He's wearing a blue shirt. And he has his tzitzis out, which was an anomaly. Most of the time when somebody wears his tzitzis out, he's dressed in black. Except for a shirt, not the shirt. But okay, he's dressed in black. So, of course, he intrigued me. So I went over to him and I said, Shalom Aleichem, how are you? Welcome to the shul, whatever. Turns out he was a conservative rabbi. Now, he had a story to tell. He was a student in Georgetown University, which is in Washington, D.C. And as a student in Georgetown, he came from a totally, not even Reform family. He knew nothing. He didn't know the Aleph base. Ultimately, he and his mother, he came to us, I can't tell you how many Shabbosim over a number of years. He was not married, and he had no family, so we invited him just about every single Shabbos to eat by us. Anyway, he even invited his mother. His mother had never lit candles in her life. She didn't even know what it was. This is how assimilated this man's family was. And he came to Georgetown University, and he was a very good student. And at his senior year, he took a seminar. And in the seminar, it was taught by a Jesuit priest. And the Jesuit priest assigned him to write a paper on his roots. Write about your Jewish roots. You know nothing about your roots. That's going to be your paper for this seminar. And so he began to write about his Jewish roots, investigates and check and this and that. Anyway, he graduates with honors, and he decides to go to the Hebrew Union something or other in Cincinnati. He wants to become a Reform rabbi. So enamored was he of his history as a Jew, he wanted to become a rabbi. So he went to the Reform, and he studied in the Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati. He became a Reform rabbi. He went out into the world, and he got this little small Reform community as his synagogue or temple. And after a while, he says to himself, you know something? There's no such thing as lay Reform Jews with any ideology. They don't know what they're doing. It's a social club. They don't know mitzvahs. They don't know this. They don't have any ideological structure, what they believe in, what they don't believe in, what they observe, what they don't observe. Ish hayashar be'einav yaseh. Everybody does whatever he wants. There's no religious basis for Reform Judaism. And therefore, he decides to go to the theological seminary in New York and does become a conservative rabbi. He studies there. In the course of his study there, he studies in Israel. He learns Hebrew fluently. He's very smart. He learns some Talmud, and he becomes a conservative rabbi. The first thing he does as a conservative rabbi, he becomes a rabbi in a hillel on a college campus. But after a while, he says to himself, I should become a rabbi in a community. So he becomes the rabbi in York, Pennsylvania, which is about a 45-minute drive from Baltimore. And in this community, he tries to be a proper conservative rabbi. And lo and behold, there's no conservative laity with any ideology. It's Yisha Yosher Be'einav Yaseh. Everybody does what they want. They drive to shul, they don't come to shul, they come on Yom Kippur, they don't come, they do eat, they don't eat, they don't know what they're doing. So he decides that's not for him. So he resigns from the shul, and he moves to Baltimore, and he becomes a scholar in the Judeo-Christian Institute, which is housed in Baltimore. The Judeo-Christian Institute was founded by Reverend Christopher Layton, who he is a very popular theologian, Christian theologian, who is on, used to be, at least when I was in America, on public broadcasting. He would give the ideological answer to various questions that were posed that existed in the world. He would be the one they would consult with, and he would give the Christian Protestant bent on the answers to these questions. So this man started this Judeo-Christian Institute, and he decided he wanted a Jewish scholar, a Christian, a Catholic scholar, and a Protestant scholar. Subsequently, he has expanded it now to have also an imam, Muslim. Okay, fine. It's now Judeo-Christian Muslim Institute, but not in my time. In my time, it was only Judeo-Christian. Anyway, this rabbi became the Jewish scholar. And of course, he was now eating in my house almost every Shabbos. And so he decided to ask me to meet Reverend Christian Layton, who was very smart and very, prominent. And I meet him in a restaurant, actually over lunch, Jewish restaurant, kosher restaurant. And he says to me, Rabbi, I want you to study the Bible with me. I said to him, with all due respect, my plate is full. I'm teaching, I'm writing, I'm studying. I'm also a lawyer. I have no time to spend teaching you biblical subjects. However, there is one parsha in the Torah which we will get to, and that's the story of Bilam. And I will teach you about the story of Bilam, and then you can draw your own conclusions as to how you should approach your religion. Fine. And we did that. At the end of this study session, he says to me, can I be considered a son of Abraham? I said, well, what do you want to be a son of Abraham for? He says, because the Bible says that through Abraham's children, the world will be blessed. And the Bible also says, whoever blesses the children of Abraham is himself or herself blessed. And whoever curses the sons of Abraham will be cursed. So I want to be considered amongst the blessed. I want to be considered a son of Abraham. So I said to him, of all the patriarchal figures in the Torah and the Bible, all of them have a sentence, these are the genealogy of, except for Abraham. Why is Avrum Avinu excluded from that list? Why isn't there a sentence? After all, he's the founder of Judaism, the first Jew. Why is there no pasuk in the Torah, Ela told us Avraham? I said, you know why? Because the Torah says Avrum Avinu is Av Hamon Goyim. Avram Avinu, and of course I didn't call him Avram Avinu, I said Abraham is the father of a multitude of nations, meaning the nations of the world are all children of Avram Avinu. How is that possible? He didn't have, he had Yishmael, he had Yitzchak. Where does he get to be a father of the multitude of nations? The answer is, the Gemara says, Kol hamalamed as ben chavero Torah ki'ilu holido. Whoever teaches the son of another person Torah, it's as if he bore him. Your bonim, talmidim harehem kibonim. Students are equal to children. The Gemara even says, "Ba'kol adam miskaneh chutz mi beno mi talmido." Everyone, a person is jealous of every type of a person. Subconsciously, maybe. Not many people are not, but the Gemara says everybody. Ba'kol adam miskaneh. Everyone is jealous of other people's successes, except if it's the success of his son or children, or except if it's the success of his student. Because his student is like his son. So if his student surpasses him, as if his son surpasses him, he's proud. I contributed. This is my son. This is my student. I don't get jealous. So you see that students are like children. And therefore I said to him, if you are a true monotheist, you are a student of Abraham. And as a student of Abraham, you are considered a child of Abraham. And therefore, as a child of Abraham, you can be blessed, but you must be a true monotheist. And then he professed to be a true monotheist. Fine. Anyway, so getting back to why do we name the second book Shemos? So the simple answer is because it's the second word in the Chumash of Shemos, Eila Shemos. It starts with the word Shemos, so we call the book Shemos. But God arranges how the words of the Torah fit in and what their sequence is and what the sentence structure is. For all this is from God. So Hashem knew that we were going to call the second book Shemos. So why? did he arrange the words of the Torah should come out, that the second book should start with the word Shemos, and that we, the Jewish people, shall forever call the second book Shemos. What's the pshat? So I think the answer might be as follows. The first book of the Torah is the book of patriarchs. Each patriarch made a contribution, some for the good, some for the bad. Esav maybe for the bad. Yishmael also maybe for the bad. But there were patriarchs who made, contributions for the good. Noach, Shem, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef, they are patriarchal figures who gave and made positive contributions. When a person is a patriarch, or the leader of a shul, or the leader of a beis medrash, he or she assumes all of the burdens and the responsibilities of that position. But if I'm a member of the shul, what is my usual response? Do this, do that. Nah, let the president do it. Nah, let the gabbai do it. Nah, let the rabbi do it. Let the chazan do it. Let somebody else do it. I'm too busy. I can't stop my life and do this. It's too much work. It's too much aggravation. It's too much this. It's too much that. I don't have to do it. There are others who do it. I'm part of a group. I'm not the only one. Let somebody else do it. Comes along the Torah and says, Am b'nei Yisrael. Paro says, I sense that these clans are not just clans. There is a nation forming here. The nucleus of a nation, the nation Am b'nei Yisrael, Rav v'otzum mimeno. The nation of the children of Israel is more powerful and more numerous than us. Therefore, we must enslave them. When you're in a group, when you're in part of a nation, the tendency is to shirk responsibility. To let the responsibility be on some other. This guy's a big shot, let him do everything. I don't have to do anything. I just sit there and everything goes right over my head. I don't have to go roll up my sleeves. I don't have to, stress myself or work or do anything, give up my free time. I just don't have to do it. Others will do it. Comes along the Torah and says, yes, this is the book of the formation of the nation of Israel. We will have redemption, Geula. We will have Matan Torah, granting of the Torah. We will have the construction of the Mishkan. All of the basic institutions that form the basis of our nation, Israel. But we do not have to do anything. Individually, I don't have to do anything. Comes the Torah and says Shemos. Remember what Melchizedek transformed his life from the name? He made himself the king of justice. Shemos. Each one of us has to make a name for ourselves. Each one of us in our own way, in our own fashion, with our own potential, with our own capabilities, we need to make a contribution. We cannot just sit there and let it go over our head, pass the buck, don't have to do anything. Shemos. Remember, in the process of nationhood, each person must count. Every Jew must stand up and make a contribution of some significance to the collective, to the nation of Israel. And that's why the Torah calls the second book of the Torah Shemos. In the midst of nation building, make a name for yourself. Make a contribution. Thank you.
Go ahead.
See you all next week. Thank you for listening.